Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Ask me anything. There is no agenda here. There will be no slides during this presentation. There is no presentation, in fact. It is simply a sacred space for you to join me and where I will simply start the conversation by asking you one question. How may I serve you today? You could ask me anything on any topic, and this is open to anyone. Even if you happen to be scrolling through Facebook or whatever social media platform you're watching this live stream on, and you have no idea who I am, you can still, all of you can go to cliffravenscraft.com/join. And if you go there, there is a button that if you click it, it will bring you into a Zoom call with me. And that will work on both desktop and also on your mobile phones, your mobile device. So just go to cliffravenscraft.com/join, and then I will see you pop into a Zoom call. There may be other people there as well. And I will take one person at a time, drag them up here on my screen, and I will start by asking them the question, how can I serve you today? I already have one individual in queue here, and we'll get to him in just a moment. I also had somebody else who said they were going to join today. They didn't get a chance to ask a question yesterday, so we'll see if she joins as well. But there should be plenty of time. I'm going to go all the way up until about 3 or 3:15 maybe today. I'm certainly going to go until 2:30. And if there are still people here, I will continue to do the live stream. I want to serve as many people as I can in this opportunity. One other thing before I get started, I do want to let you know that Stephanie and I are hosting a free The Dream workshop coming up on August 29th and 30th. That is a Friday and a Saturday, all day, both days. We are hosting that here in our hometown of Hebron, Kentucky, which is just across the river from Cincinnati, Ohio. It is, in fact, only about 3 miles. The location is only 3 miles from the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky CVG Airport. And so if you would like to attend, the event is all about helping you free the dream inside of you. If you have had this dream of something that you've wanted to create into the world, and you've had a struggle, or you've had obstacles, or it's just not quite manifested in your life. It has not gone from a thought into pure reality. If that's the case, come to Free the Dream workshop. We will help you find out what it is that is necessary for that dream to become reality. Now, this workshop is also for those of you who are out there. It's like, I don't even know what my dream is. And many people have come in the past to the Free the Dream conference, and then now we're doing it as a workshop, more small community gatherings to have these conversations, because I want to actually spend more time getting to know you and what's going on in your world. And if you don't even know yet what your dream is, come to Free the Dream workshop. We'll help you go through a process of self-discovery, find out who your authentic self is. What would you do in this world if it weren't for the expectations of others and what they think you ought to be in this world and what they think you should be creating? Or maybe you're stuck in a process and a cycle of doing things that you believe everyone else expects you to do in the world. And once we can get clear about who you authentically are, we can give you some tools and techniques and strategies for setting your ability to dream back into motion, because you do have dreams. And if you'd like to learn more about that, I have not yet taken the time to set up the sales page for this with all the information. One big detail is this will be the first event that my wife and I are hosting in a whole level of different trust and faith. We are hosting this event as Pay What You Want. Literally, you could choose any amount to pay to attend this event. Does not matter what that amount is. Now, again, it's going to be Friday, August 29th, Saturday, August 30th. I'm doing all of this off the top of my head here. If you would like to be put on the waiting list, and I think we're going to limit this to 50 people for this next workshop. If you'd like to be on the waiting list, all you have to do is email me, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com, and mention Free the Dream Workshop and that you'd like to attend. All right, with that, so far, real quickly, I only have David Fell, who is here standing by on Zoom. I'm going to bring him up here in just 1 second. But nobody else is in line. So after I'm finished having this conversation with David, I will be available to chat with you if you go to cliffravenscraft.com/join, pop into the Zoom call, just stand by and I'll get to you next. All right, with that out of the way, David, it is so delightful to have you join me today. How may I be of service to you?
You already have been. And when I got that email, seeing what you're doing, and I'm like, wow, because that really resonated with me. I have a successful medical practice here in the great metropolis of Yelm, Washington, a small little town. I'm a naturopathic physician. But my dream, my goal, and my dream is to reach a lot more people, to help them get healthy, to give them the tools to work through the complexities of what it's like to get healthy. It's easy to lose weight, honestly. It is. I mean, it's hard in the moment, but you can do almost anything to lose weight. You can go on a Twinkie diet and lose weight. You can go on any type of crazy thing. But how do you live a healthy life, right? And so communicating that to the world in a way where my question is, and it's funny because even just thinking about what I would ask you was itself a useful exercise, right? What am
Oh,
I going to
yeah.
ask? How am I going to word it? What's most important? That itself was in working. Man, that when I'm thinking it, that really sounds ridiculous. Some of the things that are coming up, like it's already kind of like internal counseling goes on when you do something like that. So like one of the ideas that gets me, even though I'm successful locally and I help a lot of people, it's I'm not good enough, right? I'm not creative enough. I don't have enough charisma. I don't have enough knowledge, enough way of being entertaining, because entertainment is sort of a key thing in this picture, right? So that kind of thing hits me. Together with that is I'm still carry this burden of reaching the unreachable, right? I'm just in my mind. It's like I want to reach that person who's not reachable. I know it just sounds ridiculous, but those two things kind of working together. Reaching the I realize. I mean, in all my training, I understand if somebody's not motivated, isn't you just kind of put stuff out there. So those kind of things are holding me back in a way. This fear that I won't really be able to reach people, that in that sense, I won't be successful. And I'm not as worried about the money as I am about reaching people. And yes, I mean, I do want money too. It's no, I have to live, but really reaching people in a meaningful way, to where their lives are transformed for health and healing. I help a lot of people with really complex medical conditions, but in reality, I want to help people with the lifestyle related things.
Okay. Let's forget just a moment about any of the objections your mind would place in your path as to why these things are maybe not as possible. You had mentioned, I'm not entertaining enough, or maybe I don't have this or that, or whatever the case may be. But let's, for just a moment, let's pretend that you could have exactly what you want and everything you need to get it is instantly available to you on demand. So if we can just pretend, and get me, are you able to go into a fictional world in your future where you have everything you want and it all comes to you instantly whenever you need it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So 3 years from today, it is July 23rd, 2028. You have exactly what you want. What does your work week look like?
My work week, I spend probably 20 to 25 hours a week interacting with people, in groups, a lot of it in groups, some individual. I have, on a regular basis, I have a speaking engagement somewhere that I work like to spread this joyous knowledge here, and on a regular basis. But I'm not traveling every week, but once, twice a month, maybe, or maybe even a little less, traveling for business, on speaking. And my wife's with me. We don't have any financial concerns, so my wife gets to come and participate. Um, yeah, I would say that it's 20 to 25 hours a week of interacting with people and some speaking engagements. and then creating some video content and things along those lines.
All right. So let's break. Okay, so let me put down video content. Video content. All right. So you've got 20 to 25 hours a week. The group sessions that you have, tell me about the group sessions. Describe it. Now, again, do this in the present moment. We are
Yeah.
in the year 2028. This is
Yeah.
as it's actually happening. So it is currently Wednesday. And let's just say you've already held 2 or 3 different group sessions this week. I'd like you to choose one of them from yesterday or Monday and tell me about the group sessions that you hosted. How many people were in it? What were some of the topics that were brought up, and in what ways did you serve it? I want you to tell me about this experience.
There were 12 people present. We discussed barriers to what they're trying to accomplish in their
Give
health.
Take one person, for example. Julie was
Um,
there. Julie came. She
Julie.
had some barriers in her health. What was
Julie is
Julia's barrier?
Julie is a diabetic, and Julie is struggling with cravings in the afternoon in particular. She's struggling with these food cravings. She's doing good in the morning, doing good in early afternoon, but late afternoon and evening, she's finding she's just so driven to eat something that isn't going to do her health any good. So yeah, that's the situation I have in mind. That
Okay.
individual.
So basically, you had this session with 12 people. Now, was this in person or was this a virtual group session?
Virtual.
Okay, so it was a virtual group session. And how did Julia come to discover these group sessions?
Julia came to discover him because of a video she saw of mine, and signed up for a coaching package, a program, a group coaching program. And so we've been working together about 6 weeks out of the 12 weeks right now. We're in the 6 week of a 12-week program.
So when Julia signed up, what do you think pushed her over the edge? So she watched a video, she's heard about the programs. Did you ever ask Julia? Let's just say that you asked Julia, why did she make the decision after watching a video or series of videos, pieces of content? How long has she had been following you, and what pushed her over the edge to actually join this group program?
Well, she'd been following me for about 6 months, and never really interacted or anything. She'd been tried everything for dieting and losing weight, and puts it back on. Her A1C is climbing up steadily. She's afraid of what might happen for the things she hears that diabetes can do, and she's tired of being tired and feeling weak, and having these fluctuations in her blood sugar because of the medications she's taking. And she wants a nice, stable, happy, energetic life.
All right. Let's do me a favor. We're going to play around and we're going to jump 1 year into the future. It is now 2029. All right. Is Julia still a part of your program, or how long was she a part of your program?
Oh, yeah, good question. Um, Never really thought about that. This is I got that is something that's new to my thinking about on it. She was successful in the program and is still successful, but she's not part of the program anymore because she doesn't need it. She's out there being successful on her own.
Excellent. So in 2029, Julia is out there and she's given you an amazing testimonial. And you're about ready to put it on your website. It's so amazing. Tell me a little bit about what she said in that testimonial. What was her life like before she joined your program? And what was the biggest pivot for her? And what is her life like now as a result of having successfully completed it and had this transformation? What did she say in her
She
video?
she she said she felt powerless to overcome her cravings, the diabetes. She felt powerless, and now she feels empowered. Now she feels like she has the resources and internally and the knowledge, and now experience at overcoming it. And even when things get tough and she might fall off a little bit, she has the depth of resources and experience to get right back and stay the course, and keep her health in the right direction, and the energy that she so wanted to have that she didn't have before.
And what's the transformation that she experienced? So she went from this to this. What Is there any remarkable, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can't believe I was able to achieve fill in the blank. Is there anything like that that she put in the testimonial?
Yeah, well, she went from having an A1C of 9.2 to having an A1C of 5.2 and losing 111 pounds and keeping it off.
Amazing. And is that unique to Julia, or has that been happening for, I mean, not the exact things. I mean, obviously everybody's results vary from person to person, but is this typical that people have this level of significant life altering transformation in your programs?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
If they put in the work and do the stuff, they get the results.
Do you share your client testimonials and stuff like that? Have you ever I mean, we're in 2029 now. Remember, we're still in July of 2029. So you mentioned that you create content, you create videos. Is that on YouTube, I suppose?
YouTube and anyone,
It's
wherever they could
syndicated.
get pushed out to.
Yep, great. So did you invite Julia to come on to your show and tell her story? And did you take the time to maybe see if she could dig into her archives of photos and share some photos and maybe put some B-roll footage in post-production after as she's telling the story, and or even in real time you could even know that she's going through this and bring some of the stuff. Have you done that?
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful.
I
And
try to do one of those a month.
okay, so do you remember the call, David, you and I had back on July 23rd, 2025? I mean, that was 4 years ago. I know it was a long time ago. But do you remember that conversation? Do you remember that time when we got onto a Zoom call and you asked me a question?
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
Back then, how many people were subscribed to your YouTube channel?
Uh, 13.
All right. And here now in 2029, how many people are subscribed to your channel?
142,000.
Wow. What would you say was the biggest inflection point? Like, what was, I mean, usually for somebody to go from 13 subscribers to, what did you say, 100 and something?
142,000.
142,000 subscribers. There, there are sometimes you can point to a couple of inflection points. Somebody heard about you, promoted you, you got some sort of leverage somewhere. Tell me, and again, you can make anything up, right? Over the past 4 years, what would you say are 2 or 3 things that occurred that allowed you to get so much exposure that those people came to your content and actually grew this audience to this size?
I was a guest on a podcast that was a real popular podcast.
Which podcast
And
was
that
that?
that was, can I make it up?
By the way, the answer to the question is yes. It would be even more powerful if it's a real podcast.
Yeah. The Proof with Simon Hill.
Okay, wonderful. So the proof with Simon Hill, and I guess he already had a sizable audience and people who are exactly the target audience for the kind of content that you created. Let me ask you this: when Simon, how did that interview on his content, his podcast, how did that come about? Did he reach out to you? Did you reach out to him? How did that come about? And
I
by the way,
reached out
this
to
can
him.
be completely made up. All right.
Yeah,
You,
I reached out to him. It took 4 times of me reaching out to him. I didn't stalk him or anything. It was over a several month period of time. And yeah, so I reached out to him and I already had some content up there so he could kind of see who I was and what I was doing. And then we talked and he invited me on his podcast.
Awesome. And again, we're still here in July of 2029. So David, now that we're having this opportunity to reconnect about how you've gone from 13 subscribers to 142,000 subscribers in your channel, one of the things I'd love to ask you is what was the threshold that made this? What was his name again? The host of the podcast?
Simon Hill.
Simon Hill. What was the threshold that really changed everything for Simon? Because you mentioned that you reached out to him 4 different times over the course of several months. I would imagine maybe you made the mistake of many people make, and the first few times it was email. But what did you do that actually got his attention that made him say, "Oh, there's no way I can pass this up. I'm definitely going to take more interest. I'm going to take a few moments of my day to find out who the heck this guy is that has done this thing that got my attention."
I
What did you
started
what did you
commenting on
do?
his videos. I started commenting on his videos in meaningful ways. Well, I think were meaningful ways, and obviously he did too. So yeah, engaging his content probably was helpful.
Okay. I will s- just pull out of our imaginary thing here, just so you know, you've already got a very clear path of what you could do. You could find about 5, 10, 15 people who have audiences that you believe would benefit from the kind of content that you're creating. One of the things that is the precursor of him actually inviting you is the fact that he was able to see a bit of the content that you have and was incredibly impressed by that content. And the interesting thing, and this is just me. Now, I want you to know, David, I do not have all of the answers. And so anything that I say, I'm just here to have mental experiments with you. We can play around with ideas and stuff like that. So take any of this with a grain of salt, whatever it is. If it serves you, take anything that's helpful. Anything that's not, just ignore it. All right. But here's my thing. In this world of trying to get out there and connect with other people, everybody else is out there doing the, send the emails. And everybody else out there is pretty much aware of the fact that I can actually engage with content. In fact, there was a time a couple years ago, everybody watched the same Gary Vee video where he said, here's your Instagram strategy. What you do is you pull up a profile, you skim through, you like and comment on 5 of the most recent things, and then you hit follow, and boom, they follow you back, and then boom, you hit them with the DM. And and when that was making its viral hit, all of a sudden, people like myself, and probably even you, who anybody who has a brand, anybody who has anything where somebody might want to engage with you, might want to get into your DMs, if you will, you just see this thing. And even today I still see it from time to time. I open up my social media and I see this person I've never heard of before, and I get 4 different or 5 different posts that they've liked. I see a comment or two, and then I see a follow notification, and I just know that they're just playing the game. So what I'm getting at, I don't want to speak any limiting belief, but what I am going to share, because I know that your question is, Cliff, how can I do this? Some strategies and some ideas. I'm not saying that just engaging in meaningful, real, authentic ways isn't going to get his attention. In fact, I'm sure that there are ways that you could engage with his audience that would be beyond anything he's ever seen before, and it might get his attention. But what I would suggest is getting way outside of the box
Mm.
and finding some individuals that you absolutely love who they are. You love who they are in the world. You see them as energetically aligned with how you like to show up into the world. And in many ways, you're already seeing them as a role model, and you're looking and learning from anything and everything that they're doing. And you have such an incredible amount of appreciation for them that without expecting anything in return, you're not going to send this person an email to tell them how much you appreciate them and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. But you might hear some hint of something that's of interest to them, some unique out there thing that just was in passing. They talk about a favorite movie, they talk about a favorite album when they were a teenager or something like that. And you might just send them an original copy of a book, or you might send
Mm.
them a vinyl album of their first, you might send them some sort of gift in the mail with a handwritten message that just that's written in a letter that says, this and all this other stuff. And by the way, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be creating the kind of content. So much of what I learned from you, here are the top 5 things I've learned from you that I've implemented in my channel
Mm.
on YouTube, found at such and such. And you just put that in a handwritten letter. I'm telling you, this might have an opportunity for you far and above the email and just the other standard ways of trying to reach out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, very, very interesting idea.
Let me ask you another question. So, Simon Hall, that's his name, correct?
Yeah.
Simon received whatever thing that caught his attention. It was such an outlandish, out there, out of the box kind of thing that there's no way on earth he's ignoring your letter, your outreach. And obviously, you've given him credit for the amount of influence he's had in helping you build what you've built. He went to your YouTube channel and he's not currently subscribed. So when he lands on the channel, there's the trailer video for unsubscribers. He clicked play. And what is in that video that made him say, oh my gosh, I want to learn more about this guy?
I don't know.
Find the answer to that question. You don't have to find it here. But
Right.
do you see how I'm getting you to
Yeah.
dream? What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to I'm trying to get you to dream about what your desired outcomes are.
Right.
Get a clear, vivid picture of them. Make them up. Don't, like I said, you could make up you could have made up a fictitious podcast, but do you see the power of actually choosing Simon Hall?
Right.
Because he's a real person and this could be a real thing. And I'm telling you, if you dream this picture clear enough and you get clarity about let me unpack and how did this happen? If I can follow the breadcrumbs back, you could even manufacture all of the made up stuff. And by the way, I'm not suggesting for a minute that this is guaranteed to work and get you anything.
Right.
But boy, if you do these things in a what do you call it, you get enough at bats at this and continue to create the kind of content that really does stand out. What is that content? What am I doing? What am I there? What is it that really, here's what I hear a lot. I hear a lot of people say, oh my gosh, I want to reach as many people as possible. I want to reach blah, blah. I want to grow my impact. I want to grow my influence. I hear this all the time. And when it comes down to me, there are two different and very yet connected things that come to my number one marketing method. And that is simply this: be someone and or do something worth talking about. Another variation: do something, be someone and or do something that is worthy of the attention of those individuals.
Yeah, that's where I'm feeling inadequate in the sense of being that entertaining, creative, charismatic figure, right? That captures people's attention.
Yeah, so let me tell you about a guy named Cliff Ravenscraft. You may have heard of him. Well, back in December of 2005, nearly 20 years ago, hardly anyone outside of Northern Kentucky had ever heard the name Cliff Ravenscraft. Okay? And now he had a blog. He had been doing a blog for almost a decade at that point. And yet that blog reached at its height right around about 300 people per month. And that was with him aggressively trying to get that blog to take off and all these other things. But very few people ever heard the name Cliff Ravenscraft. Then all of a sudden, he was introduced to the television show Lost, and he and his wife were watching it. He started, he had already been introduced to the world of podcasting. So Leo Laporte had started a podcast a few months earlier. He was listening to Adam Curry and Leo Laporte and a guy named Father Roderick and a handful of other podcasters at the time, because quite frankly, there were only about 50 or 60 podcasters in existence. And so when he was watching this show, he realized, man, there are so many hidden clues to this television show Lost. And he recognized that there were other people out there who had a podcast devoted to Lost. and he subscribed to it. And he found out that not only was there one group of people who had a podcast, but there were 5 other podcasts devoted to the topic of Lost. In fact, they had all gathered together and created a single feed where everyone had their own podcast feed for their own Lost podcast. And they created what was called the Lost Podcast Network. And one day, Cliff was blogging about Lost and wrote a theory, and he shared this theory in a 3.5-minute audio file and sent it to one of those podcasts. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, 3 of those 5 other podcasts were amazing. Their audio quality, 10 out of 10. Their entertainment value, 10 out of 10. Their production of how they outlined everything, 10 out of 10. The other 2 podcasts were on topic and interesting. Okay, that's what we'll give them. Well, I submitted my podcast to what I thought was my favorite, the best podcast, The Transmission with Ryan and Jenna Zawa. By the way, that guy, Cliff Ravenscraft, is me for anybody that doesn't know. All right, so I submitted this 3.5-minute audio file. Now, I'm not a professional broadcaster, and if you hear the way I speak today, it sounds like, man, Cliff, of course it's easy for you. Listen to how powerful your voice is. Just hear the confidence in your voice and all of this other stuff, blah, 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 blah. I want to see if I can pull this up, go to Dropbox, and see if I can find. What happened was I played this, I sent this audio file as a result of my 3.5-minute audio file, which, by the way, I did something worth talking about. All right. So I did something worth talking about. I created an amazing blog post that shared side-by-side images. It took me hours, countless hours, by the way, to create this blog post. And what happened was that I sent this 3.5-minute audio file. I also mentioned my blog, which had proof of my theory. All right. So I said, listen, if you doubt my theory, I have evidence to support it. All you need to do is go to, and it was, by the way, ravenscraft.org. That was my blog at the time. And so the next morning after that went out in their podcast, I woke up and I went to load my website, my blog, and it said bandwidth exceeded, account suspended, contact billing department. And the reason why is because hundreds of thousands of people had landed on my blog to see that theory. Now, that podcast, by the way, did not have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I happen to know that it had tens of thousands of subscribers, but not hundreds of thousands. However, one of the subscribers that heard my 3.5-minute audio file, which, by the way, my voice was not confident and clearly communicated today, lots of ums, lots of this, lots of that, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, one of those people, just one subscriber, happened to work for Entertainment Weekly, EW.com.
Mm-hmm.
They heard my 3.5-minute audio file. Then they saw my blog post. It's clear that Cliff has figured out the entire show. By the way, you're totally getting my totally blown out of proportion, thing in my favor. But it was viable enough that Entertainment Weekly, EW.com, did an entire article overnight about my blog post and recommended that their millions of readers click the link to see the evidence on my blog. And that is how I got started in podcasting. Somebody said, Cliff, you should have your own audio podcast. And when I started my first audio podcast, I want you to hear what I sounded like. And I will eventually, if I put this in a podcast episode, which I will pipe this in, but I'm just going to play it and hold it up to the ear here. So, or to the mic.
This is Generally Speaking, a podcast production of Cliff Ravenscraft and Friends. Hello and welcome to the show. This is my very first podcast for Generally Speaking. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft. I'm in Hebron, Kentucky, and I just want to go over with you a couple things to get this thing started. First off, I want to talk to you about the format of the show. I could not decide whether or not I wanted to do another Lost podcast.
By the way, if you want, feel free to take a shot every time I say the word
Is 100% all Lost related items, just like various other shows that I'll mention in just a moment. Or if I wanted to do a technology related podcast, like many of them out there, or if I wanted to do a faith-based podcast like some other podcasts out there. The thing is I'm definitely passionate about the TV show Lost. I'm also passionate about technology. And as far as faith is concerned, I'm not only a Christian, but I'm also a pastor as well. So some of you are thinking, let's see, a Christian pastor watching and obsessed with Lost. Okay, so you're gonna find out why I say that I'm too pagan for some of my Christian friends, and too Christian for some of my pagan friends. Hopefully, the fact that I'm a Christian pastor won't turn you off, and in fact, I think I might be able to provide some valuable insight into the show, seeing as that how there is a lot of religious themes and even the next episode that is going to be titled the 23rd Psalm. So I think I'll have a unique perspective, and I think you'll find that I won't be too offensive to those of you who are not Christians.
And David, let me ask you this. Was I eloquent in my speech?
No, you even had a couple of lip smacks in there.
And the audio quality was a 3 out of 10.
Right.
It was terrible. But you want to know something? I did something. All right. So I did something worth talking about. So what I did is I created that podcast. I put it out, and I had a bunch of people say, Cliff, wow, I listened to your audio file on the transmission. Cliff, I loved what you shared. I went on to talk about the format of the show. I was going to talk about different topics because nobody would want to hear me talk about anything, really. Nobody's ever going to listen to my podcast. That's how much confidence I had in myself. And I said, but this first episode, I'm going to talk about the television show Lost. And every episode I do, the title will start with the subject. It'll say Lost, Technology, or Faith. And you can delete the ones that don't interest you. That's how I was going to do the podcast. And so I got several people who said, Cliff, I loved the 3.5 minute audio file. I loved your blog. This is amazing. I loved your first episode when you finally started talking about Lost. I don't want to hear about technology, and I could care less about your faith. But if you did a podcast devoted to Lost, I would listen. Even though my audio quality was terrible, even though I ummed in every sentence, they said if you had a podcast about Lost, I'd listen. And I went and I created one, an episode every week, and eventually twice a week, and I did it for 6 years. And you want to know something? My podcast may be the podcast that has the number one-star reviews within the first 50 episodes. I would encourage you to go to the Apple Podcasts directory and look up the Weekly Lost podcast with Cliff and Stephanie. And in the directory, I want you to go to the ratings and the reviews and click on See All, and then do the listing by most critical 1-star reviews. Have fun, my friend. And you want to know what happened? I went and continued anyway. And, and not only that, but I created other podcasts. I created other things. And you know what? I had people tell me how much they hated those things as well. But I kept moving forward. I kept showing up, and I kept doing things. And you know what? There was only, out of all of those people, there were only a small percentage of those people who actually reached out and said positive things. But I clung to them, and I served them, and I spoke to them. And I consistently did that, and I've been doing it for 20 years. And it's because of doing those things and being that person. It wasn't my confidence. It wasn't my eloquence. It was who I am and what I was doing that got the attention of a Michael Hyatt, of a Dan Miller, of a Pat Flynn, of an Amy Porterfield, and all the other high-level people who are in my life that exposed me to their hundreds of thousands of people in their audience.
Persistence, I hear.
You're muted,
I
by the
hear.
way. Or maybe you're not muted. Bear with me. It will take a second for me to figure out how to fix my thing here. So I'm gonna have to try saying something again, David.
Yep, I'm still here.
You're coming through loud and clear to the live stream. Everybody on the live stream is hearing this, but my Rodecaster Pro. By the way, this is a non-sponsored message about the Rodecaster Pro. I hate it. I will never buy another one. The original Rodecaster Pro had 3 of them. All 3 of them were trash. And now I have the Rodecaster Pro 2. It is also trash. Not sponsored, by the way, by Rodecaster. Just wanted to give them a shout out here. Bear with me. I'm going to have to stop this recording, and I'm going to have to turn off my Rodecaster, turn it back on, and eventually I'll be able to hear you again. David, say something.
I'm here.
Still not hearing you. Hold on one second. Let's give a second to.
Can't hear me?
There you are. It takes a second for the Rodecaster to connect.
Yeah.
All right. Let's pretend that didn't happen.
All right. I will make a note not to buy the Rodecaster Pro.
Whatever. This is Cliff's endorsement. Whatever you do, do not buy a Rodecaster Pro. Okay. Let's pretend. Hold on just a second, just for the sake of the podcast episode, because I'm going to take out the whole Rodecaster failure thing. So let's just pretend I went on this. I'm not eloquent. I'm not this. I'm not that. But this is how I got the attention of these people, by being someone and or doing something. Just take 3 seconds or a second and a half, and then respond as if I just said that.
That is, I did not know that part of your story. I knew part of your story because I did your podcasting A to Z way back when, and did podcast and was pretty successful in that realm of getting podcasts out and listened to. But what I hear is, if you have a message, speak it. Do it with whatever resources you have. Don't worry about being good enough. You'll get better as time goes on. If you have a message, speak it and do it consistently.
Yes. If that's all you take away from this conversation, that will send you down the path. But I encourage you to not only take that. I want to encourage you to not lose sight of the mental experiment of going several years into the future, designing what your life looks like very specifically, and then ask yourself, how did this happen? And follow the breadcrumbs, because that will give you indicators of what you could do next to get to that place. It's not guaranteed, but I will promise you this. Overall, what you tend to focus on the most will seemingly magically manifest itself into your life. So if you keep that picture of the future of you talking on those podcasts and having this kind of influence, and when you get the answer to that very important question, what was in that trailer on my YouTube channel that made him check out the next video or the latest video and the video before that? What was it, along with what did I write in that letter, that caused him to say, okay, I'm bringing you on my show. The world needs to know about you and your message. What was there? You don't have to have that answer today, but you will find it if you seek it. That answer is inside of you. And the big thing is everything you just said that you pulled out from that, take what you have. You've got a message. You've got to be passionate about it and go create content. Create it consistently, create it frequently, as whatever you desire, whatever's in your heart, the more you can give, and be willing to be horrible. Be willing to be criticized. Be willing to be judged. Be willing to be laughed at. Be willing to be the laughing stock of the internet. But be so passionate about what you do that Julian is going to have her life transformed because you did it.
Yeah, that is truly inspiring. Seriously, do I see my message as more important than my ego, right? And if I look at my ego, I'm gonna no, everything's got to be perfect, everything's got to line up just right. But then the message isn't getting out. Just get out the message with whatever resources I have, and which includes me and everything, whatever microphone I might have, this cheap thing or whatever it is, and let the rest take care of itself. Let things unfold. But they won't unfold if I'm not moving, right? I kind of get that in my mind too, You got to make bad content, I guess, before you can make good content. All right. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so very much. This was super helpful.
You are so welcome. And David, I just want to just share one more thing, just a little icing on this cake that we are having here, this amazing conversation. And that is, today, I have so many resources available to me. I used to have about $20,000 worth of technical equipment in my studio here. And I'm currently looking at you right now through I think it's $160 or $250 Insta360 Link webcam. Not even the current version of it, the prior version. I'm using a webcam to do this. And obviously I'm using the terrible Rodecaster Pro. Of course, now I have to let people know that we had a technical difficulty earlier that's been edited out. But those who were a part of this live stream knows exactly why I said that about the Rodecaster Pro. Anyway, today, if you were to listen to any of the most recent episodes of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, and I know you could start all the way from 772, for example, and it started way before then. You click play and you won't hear any audio branding. You won't hear anything. If you were to actually download one of my recent episodes and click play, you're going to say, you're just going to hear me start talking to you. That's it. I'm not here to impress you. I'm not here to perform. I got a message, and if you're meant to hear it, you'll hear it. And if this message is not meant for you, you probably didn't hit play in the first place, or as soon as you hit play and it wasn't impressive enough for you, which by the way, I doubt many people do that, then you went on with your day. But the people who are meant to be reached will be reached. And I'm not here to perform. I'm not here to impress. I'm not here to get everything right. I had my Rodecaster. Did you see me? Did I look anxious when the Rodecaster quit? Did I look like, oh my gosh, it is what it is?
Yeah,
and
honestly,
I feel bad that I don't have a team of production crew here to impress everyone? That don't worry, my staff's working on it. I'll be right with you. No, none of that.
And I'm annoyed by intro music, to be quite honest. Honestly, I don't want to waste my time on intro music. Personally, it's like,
David, I want to tell you something. I was attempting to there was a season of my content. There's been several seasons of my content where I've gone in and out of being truly authentically me. And in the seasons where I am attempting to produce things so that it will impress and make a good impression on others, I have the ability to do all of those things. I have done those things, and quite frankly, most of those things, even well beyond an audio branding, fancy intro, even outlining content, even going in and editing out a couple of mistakes that I made along the way, people are frustrated by that as well. It's too overly produced. And today in the world of AI, where everything is perfectly punctuated with the M dashes in exactly the right spot, people are frustrated. You know what people want? They want authenticity. They want people who know that the message they have is more important than their ego.
I love it. I love it, man. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been inspiring. Even the format and how you're doing it is inspiring. Thank you so much. I'm going to give somebody else an opportunity to ask Cliff a question.
Yeah, Amy's coming up next. Thank you so much, David. I hope that we'll hear from you again in the future. I know by the way, real quickly, what is your YouTube channel? Because we're going to take you from 13 all the way up to like 15 or 16 or 17 today.
I am Dr. Dave ND, just like my name up there for naturopathic doctor. Dr. Dave ND is what I think my YouTube channel is.
So let me, Dr. Dave, and is it MD like medical doctor?
ND as in Nancy, like up on my on my screen.
The people on the live stream don't see that. So Dr. David ND.
Dr. Dave ND.
Dr. Dave ND. Nancy David. And by the way, I will attempt to remember to put a link to your YouTube channel in the show notes for the podcast episode that will include this episode or this conversation. And if you happen to be listening to this in a podcast episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show and you look at the show notes and it doesn't have a link to Dr. David ND's YouTube channel, email me cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. I'll go in and I'll make a fix. David, I look forward to celebrating your continued growth, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. Many blessings.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, that was so much fun. I am going to mark that one as recorded. And what I'm going to do is just stop that recording, and I'm going to start a new recording, and we're going to bring Amy up next. Amy, just give me a thumbs up if you're ready. All right, here we go. Wrong thing. There we go. Amy, I am so delighted to have you join today. Thank you so much. I know that you were here. You were so patient waiting for the opportunity to join the live stream yesterday. And you said you'd come back today when there wasn't the opportunity. So thank you for coming back. How can I serve you today?
Okay. So Cliff, I contacted you a few years ago and we emailed a little bit, but it was about my podcast about walking with angels. And you were so awesome and like had a real conversation with me, and it made a real impact on me. So that's why I'm here today.
Awesome.
But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. So my husband and I run alternative choice or alternative healthcare clinic. And we do really well at clients. These are my sons. They usually are saying hi. So go ahead and say hi to Cliff. Hi. Hi.
Hello.
All right, now go play.
Good to see you guys.
So we run an alternative health clinic. My husband is the practitioner, and he takes clients all day long and tries to charge a reasonable amount so people can afford it. But that also makes it so our bottom line or our top line is fixed, right?
Okay.
So we've been working on our website for about 5 years, chformulas.com. And on our website, what we've tried to have is self-help protocols. So someone can go and click on the health problem that they're having. It pulls up a thing that they join with their email, and it sends them the information, and they get a protocol that says, if you will take these supplements, make sure you get enough water in a day, stuff like that, then your problem is going to get better. So we've been working on that with a website specialist and marketing specialist, and we're paying her about $1,300 a month. And so she's helping us with our website, making sure it's functioning and getting that stuff on there, and then connecting all the dots, right? Making sure we have an email drip, making sure things are working. And so we have that. And we have a YouTube channel, and we've been going through and doing series videos for each of those protocols, but not getting a lot of hits. And then just recently, because we were trying to find something that would branch us out of, just the regular people, the ones talking about, because there's some really big names that are talking and they get a lot of traction because they have so many followers, right? So a lot of people just automatically go to them and we get buried. So one of the things that we're working on that's different than what they're doing is making a personal homeopathic for people that is specifically encoded with the things that their body needs and for their area. We think that that's going to go really big once we can get it in front of enough people that they can see the value of it and want it. But so today my question is, like, that considered, what are we doing wrong, or what can we do more? I know we need to network more and get Brent on some podcasts or some shows with some people to kind of get the word out and into different communities. But what's some of your advice, like looking at that situation and just like moving forward? Is it just persistence? Because that's kind of what I've been doing for 5 years, 10 years.
Well, persistence is certainly a key factor that is a part of many people's success stories, the people that we look up to and label as success by society standards or whatever. There's a great deal of persistence that is involved, and I can tell you right now, a part of every one of those journeys is the fact that there were many. I don't like the labels, the right steps or the wrong steps. But there were many, many, many paths that had been gone down that led to perceived dead ends. And that typically has been a part of a majority of, well, all of the stories that I'm aware of. All right. So oftentimes we look at the people, like, for example, you said there are certain people out there who are so well known, and it seems like what you're doing gets buried because people go to those people because they're so well known. And there's so much a part of their story that persistence is certainly a key part of it, and so many dead ends and things like that. It's very rare that you come across a story where things just instantly just like lit up for somebody. It is fun, by the way, to study success from people who are well known. And have you found yourself to become a student of how did people who have what you desire, which is a much larger brand, a much larger awareness, a much larger number of people reached, and this larger impact, have you taken time to study the stories of those who have created movements in this world?
I have, and I think it goes down to a couple of things. Some people have disposable income, and somehow along the way they've gotten enough of a disposable income that they can fuel a wild idea.
Okay.
And so they have this buffer of like, okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here and do this weird thing. And it's going to pan out because I know it's off enough and that it's niche enough that once I get it, it's going to be great. And so they have this buffer, and that's great. But some people don't have that, right? So right now we're trying to make a living and still go out on that limb. And so time is always a problem, right? So not a problem, but an asset that you have to manage where it's going. And second is that I see people who are they were willing to go out and, like you were talking about with David, was the like be the guy who they're like, whoa, have you heard this guy? Like, he's like, not everybody loved Simon Sinek to begin with, right? Some of them were.
I can tell you right now, I don't know what it is about Simon Sinek. There's no doubt in my mind that this guy is a wonderful soul. he's and start with why, know your why. I'm very familiar with his message and all this other stuff. And I know so many people who adore him, and when his TED Talk came out, man, was he the talk of the town and stuff like that. I don't know what it is. I can't there's something within me. I can't stand to even I not just scroll. I don't just scroll on TikTok. I take the time to press my finger down, hit not interested, and if he's actually doing an internet promotion where he's promoting things, paid ads, I literally go in and say, block this creator. I don't want to see Simon Sinek. I don't want to see Mel Robbins either. I don't. By the way, they've never done or said anything ever to give me any reason to have a visceral reaction, but I have no desire to ever see a Simon Sinek or a Mel Robbins piece of content ever. I don't know what that is. It's just there's not resonance there.
Well, it is. I've come to see that certain people speak and you get really like into it, but it doesn't actually produce results. And I think that's like, I really like what they're saying. I feel like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then when you go to like actually implement it into your life or what you're trying to do, you actually get more nervous. You get more frustrated because they've created this like utopian idea, and it doesn't look.
Well, let's go back on topic here. So, are you still with me, Amy?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's discuss the fact that you have had the research of how other people succeed. So you've taken some time to study some people. You said you had mentioned that you see a lot of it is attributed to people who have come to a place where they had some disposable income, they had some margin, they had some buffer. I believe you used that language. You mentioned time. They seem to have the time to go do it. And then we were getting into the weeds with the Simon Sinek and that stuff. But what is it about Simon Sinek? What is it about him that sometimes there's what is that part of this equation of what you've witnessed as success?
That people want to listen to him.
People want to listen. Okay. They want to listen to him.
There's something to that, right? People want to listen to him, and he's not perfect in the way that he speaks. Like he repeats himself. He says, like
I'm the same way. By the way, I do all sorts of things. I have catchphrases and interestingly enough, ironically, there are some people who love to email me and tell me what my catchphrase of the month is. And I know what many of them are. Some of them, I will say incredibly this, incredibly that. Everything's incredible. I know that everything has to be quite frankly for a reason. Quite frankly, I don't know why I do it. And so there are the repeating phrases. And you know who catches those things? The people who don't care what I'm saying. Do you know who never actually becomes aware consciously that I'm doing those things? Who ignore it altogether? The people who care what I'm saying.
They're listening to what you're saying, not how you're saying it.
Exactly. It's very little of this has to do with the words that we're saying. It's the energy that we carry. And there's something about certain people resonate with other people. And it's not always words. It's not production value. It's just there's a level of authenticity. There's a person that I feel connected. This person gets me. I resonate with this person. So what I can tell you is your tribe is out there. There are billions of people on this planet, and I promise you, whatever your dream is for however large you and your husband of audience you want to reach, I promise you there is nothing that those other big name people who get all the people are attracted and stuff like that, you think you're getting buried. But really what's happening is you may not have found your own authentic, unique way of just being you without trying. And this came in to that conversation I had just a few moments ago with David. And that is just stop performing. and live into this message with full confidence, knowing this is important. And the right people who are meant to hear this will hear this. And if you're driven by the message, and you're driven by the service to others, and also, by the way, we still will come back to this whole role modeling thing. Have you ever listened to the podcast How I Built This, hosted by Guy Raz, I think is his name?
I have not.
This is a podcast that I might recommend for you. I am not currently subscribed to it. I did subscribe to it when it came out, and I was subscribed to it for probably about 2 or 3 years. I never listened to every single episode, but here's what I did listen to. Every time I saw in the title, and by the way, it was I think it was a different podcast in the early, like, let's just say the first 50 to 70 episodes. The kind of content that was, it started to get to the place where I was like, oh man, we got so many listeners and all this other stuff. We should pump out some other things. But the uniqueness of what he was creating wasn't scalable. So he started creating other content that was not interesting to me. And eventually I unsubscribed. But what I will tell you is, if you go find How I Built This, the podcast, and look at the first 100 podcast episodes, starting with episode 1, and then start with 1 and look at 2, 3, 4, 5, and keep going. And what I did is I only looked for the title where the business was something that I recognized and that I'm like, wow, I'd like to learn more about that. I remember one of the first episodes was one of the earlier episodes was Spanx, the lady who invented Spanx. There was the company 1-800-GOT-JUNK. You know, these people who will come out and they'll haul your junk away. And there was Southwest Airlines. And you'll go in, you'll see names of, it's like, oh, how did, Airbnb. How did these big, huge things that everyone knows about, how did they get started? And I think if you actually expand your study of people's success, you'll find that very few of those people actually had the disposable income. Now, you're going to find evidence to support the theory that there was a buffer and superior disposable income. There are certainly people who eked something out, sold a little bit of a company, and yeah, they got a buyout of a couple $1 million, and they, designed the next thing from their apartment or whatever. But what I really love, and the stories that spoke to me the most, are the ones that actually started with nothing. The people who lost it all. The people who lost it all over and over again. I think I might recall Dyson vacuum cleaners. That might have been one of those early episodes. So if there's anything, Amy, I would encourage you, if you want to experience what those people have experienced, study more about those. And when you come to a place where you find yourself confronted with the idea that this person's story has elements that don't apply to me, I don't have all of then just move on to the next story. Because I promise you, there are people who have succeeded doing the things you were doing, who had less than what you currently have. And that, if you could just find that energy and that confidence, a lot of what you're going to do is find, there comes at some point, it's interesting to me, the number of those stories who weren't always looking to build the next worldwide, globally recognized brand, but who simply knew that what they had and what they were working on was important and valuable. And there's so much more about your state of being that just says, you know what, I'm going to put everything I have into this. I'm going to bring this no matter what it takes. And I'm going to have all the hard knocks. And that's that persistence that you pulled up earlier. And when it comes to time, time is certainly a factor. However, I think that one could probably accomplish more if you come at what you're doing from the energetic of expectation and trust and non-attachment to outcomes, but with full devotion and commitment to seeing the vision of what you want to create, no matter what obstacles come your way. And if you can experience peace, love, gratitude, joy, and serve all through the process, I think that is such a key factor that I've seen in every success story, whether they had the money, disposable income, or buffers or not.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I think that there's a lot to that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things with ours is that it's not just a chosen business. It is like, it feels like a calling from God. And I think that is something that you understand. And when God tells you to do something, you keep doing it until he says stop, right? And so as we've been on this journey, there's definitely things that we know we have to build so that there's an online presence, and that people know Brent and come to understand like what he offers and can trust him. And so there's all those elements. And now it's like, okay, now what do we pour all of our energy into to see the outcome of helping others and get some more financial freedom along with that. And I think we're just in that space of like, okay, where do we put all the energy, or even like, how can we make it the best use of time? And probably just a little bit more prayer.
Well, here's the thing. I will tell you, the people who are looking for the best use of time, that sometimes can be a veiled way of saying, I want to make sure that if I choose to do something, it's going to be the right thing to do that will get the results. And that is a veiled way of saying, I don't want to waste any of my time, effort, and energy doing anything that is going to bomb or fail. And my understanding of every success story I've ever seen is that you are cutting yourself off if that's what you're trying to avoid. If you're trying to get everything and choose the right thing, and this is, by the way, if you really want to be successful financially, all you need to do is go out there and sell a course and give somebody a 10-step framework on how to succeed within 90 days doing whatever it is you want to succeed and stuff like that. That's a great way to make lots of money these days, because that's what a lot of people want. The thing is that it's not necessarily how it's going to work out, how it plays out for people. Most people, I've not met anyone personally who is considered to be a success by society's standards that followed a 10-step formula and a framework. In fact, it is a lot of dead ends and a lot of things that we tried and all this other stuff. There's another thing that you brought into the conversation, Amy, that I'll pull out, and that is, and I brought it up slightly before, and this, the idea that you're being buried by others. All right. And you used the language following that with something of so here's what makes us unique. This is what sets us apart. And what you're doing there is you're comparing yourself to someone else. And if anything, I would encourage you to drop all comparison. Those people are who they are. And let me share with you a personal story of this, okay? I don't know how long you've followed me. It doesn't matter. But in 2016, I became a massive fan of Tony Robbins. I purchased one of his 10-day audio programs, listened to it over and over again. Since then, by the way, listened to it more than 40 times, all right, over the years. I went to his Unleash the Power Within, Walked on Fire. It was awesome. I've been to UPW, Unleash the Power Within, 3 times. I went to his Date with Destiny program. I went through his 28-day Personal Power 2 program. I've invested thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars studying Tony Robbins, and I memorized a majority of his content. Memorized it. And so every single time I would quote something from Tony Robbins, I would mention Tony Robbins. And there was one time I was hosting a workshop here in my studio. It's titled "Building an Online Business." Building an Online Business. And there's this one topic that I wanted to share with the students that came to my workshop, and it was about this idea of raising your standard, which for you to be able to raise your standard, you have to change your identity of who you believe you are. Because the greatest force in all human personality is to remain consistent with who you believe you are. And if you want to raise your standard, you're going to have to change and raise your identity of who you believe you are. And so it's like, I felt like such an imposter. It's like, Tony Robbins and this and all this other stuff. And so what I did is I took a 10-minute video from YouTube and I played that during the workshop. And one of the attendees came to me and said this to me. He says, Cliff, I know how much you appreciate Tony Robbins. It's very clear that you want to give this guy credit and all this other stuff. But here's what I will say. You could have taught the content of that 10-minute video better than Tony Robbins. And it would have landed even more powerfully. He said, I'm not telling you that it didn't land. People got they understood why you shared it. But I'm going to tell you right now, next time you do this workshop, you teach that. Don't let Tony. And then all of a sudden I had that experience. I began talking about this in my podcast content. And many times I'm like, why would anybody come to like my Free the Dream conference, which was session after session after session, which was my version of teaching you Unleash the Power Within. Free the Dream conference, as it was in 2018 and 2019, was my version of a Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within without the firewalking. All right. So it was exactly that. And I wondered, why would people come? This is what people told me over and over again when I started speaking and just authentically sharing this concern. People said, Cliff, here's the thing. I don't understand why you like Tony Robbins. I can't stand the guy. I can't listen to him for a minute. Now, if you actually find some of his content where it's not edited heavily, you'll know that he cusses all of the time. And he would argue intentionally. None of that really bothers me, but it bothers a lot of people. But even beyond that, some people think he's incredibly arrogant. Some people think he's incredibly chauvinistic. There's all sorts of people who hate and despise Tony Robbins, either for conscious reasons or unconscious reasons. But you know what? A number of people, I would say hundreds of people over the years have said, Cliff, I hate Tony Robbins. I wouldn't listen to him if you paid me. But I'm glad to hear you share what you've learned from him and have applied in your life and then teach me. I don't care where the source came from, but I'd much rather hear it from you.
Yep.
And so
yeah.
There are people, and you know what? I've listened to enough Tony Robbins programs that Tony one time said, he actually had somebody steal his program, and he tells this story. Not the purpose of our conversation here, but one of the things he said, and I've heard him say it 3 different times in 3 different places. He goes, I hope you will take and internalize and live and incorporate and integrate the things I'm teaching you here, and that you will go out into the world and teach it and don't feel like you need to give me all of the credit. Now, the interesting thing, I went through all of this mental anguish and all this other stuff, feeling like, man, who am I to teach Tony Robbins material? Until one day I purchased a archive video series of Jim Rohn, who happens to be Tony Robbins' mentor, who he learned from. And as I was watching this stuff that, Tony would have been like 16 years old when this video was recorded. All right. So Tony hadn't yet started working for Jim Rohn. And do you know what I hear in video after video after video, like every single session? The things I heard at his conferences. Yep. It wasn't even his material. And do you know what? You could not pay me to listen to Jim Rohn. I tried. I bought that archive and I bought this stuff, but I can't even pretend anymore. It's been so many years since I've listened to Jim Rohn, but I purchased an audio book from him. I purchased these lectures. I purchased this and that and stuff like this. But the way he talks, I just can't stand it. I can't even do it. But it drives me crazy. My nervous system can't handle it. So you know what? It's not. Don't compare yourself to those people. Those people are reaching those people. But you know what? The reason why they are getting so many people, because they're out there. They're not comparing themselves to anyone else. and they're fully authentically sharing what they know is important, and they consistently do it, and they don't concern themselves about how they're appearing to others and how they're perceived by others. So there's so much to that. Don't compare yourself to the people who you said earlier that are burying you and you're not getting noticed. Look at the people who are noticing you, and just trust that one day somebody who is listening. Now, you heard my conversation with David, right? Or just before. And David,
Yep.
I talked about the fact there was one person listening to my 3.5-minute audio file when I sent that audio file with my theory about the television show Lost, talking and then linking back to my blog. And you know what? Sure, I might have, that any other day, I might have gained 60 or 70 new subscribers to my blog that day. But why did hundreds of thousands of people shut down my blog and get my account suspended and bandwidth exceeded? Why is that? Because one person from Entertainment Weekly happened to be listening to that podcast that day. And you're just one EW.com article away from just being up there from all those other people.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you. That's very encouraging. I feel like if nothing else, I will keep going, and we'll try and get on some other podcasts and get the word out. So,
yeah. Well, I can tell you right now, you're already on the right path, or you're already on the right path, and I can tell you it's the right path. It's because it's the path you're on, and every decision you make moving forward will be technically the right path, and every path that you go down that leads to a dead end and seems to be a waste of time, it will have been the right path as well. There's going to be a lot of interesting things, but just keep focused on what your desired outcome is. Look at others who are successfully there. Learn what they had to go through so that you can have the encouragement to keep moving forward. Have ultimate faith and trust that you're authentically you and you matter. It doesn't matter how you're unique from anyone else. You don't have to do things with your program or your offerings to be unique, because you are you. Your husband is him. That nobody else can be you doing what you're doing. It's already as authentic and unique as it needs to be. And the other thing is just all the actions that you do, take them with ultimate trust and faith in God, that he is leading, that he's guiding, that he's bringing the right people. And ultimately, this is what you're doing it for. And I know that you already know, don't be anxious about anything. Don't worry about what you will eat. Don't worry about what you will drink. Don't worry about where the next income is going to come from. If you keep seeking first the alignment of what I'm doing, is it aligned with my authentic self that is one with God? Am I there? That is the path that you follow.
thank you, Cliff.
It is my pleasure, Amy. Thank you. Feel free to reach out anytime if I can be of continued further support or encouragement.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. All right, so let's see here. Jonathan has been here for quite some time, but he had to roll. So let me see what he wrote here. He says, let's see. I wish I could stay. I have an event to attend with my son. I'll try to join tomorrow. Thank you so much for doing this. You have included great value since the very start of the session today. I've learned just listening to other questions. Thank you. All right, well, Jonathan Harrison, I don't know if you'll be watching the replay, and hopefully maybe he's emailed me, or I might be able, let me just write Jonathan Harrison. And since he says he's coming tomorrow, I would make it a point to try, if he is here at the beginning tomorrow, I'll put him first in the session. And by the way, real quickly, if you go to cliffravenscraft.com/join, if anybody wants to, you can join me up here and ask me anything. I have a coaching call today with one of my current clients. Set an alarm for 3:10 p.m.
Done.
All right, so my coaching call is at 3:30 p.m. today. And yeah, so let's see, anything else here? Mark Weiss was here earlier. Mark is actually here now. Victor with a K is here. Victor, are you there? Would you like to come up and join me? No pressure to do so, but just curious if you're interested. If so, just turn your video on and unmute yourself on the Zoom call. And that may or may not be of interest to Victor. So if anybody wants to join me right here, right now, cliffravenscraft.com/join. Mark is ready to join me again. Mark is a frequent visitor to the live stream. Mark, it's good to see you again, my friend. How are you?
Hey, good. Actually, originally yesterday, I wanted to talk to you and say, oh, I did this, I did that, I did such. But with your help, I suddenly realized that I didn't want to do that anymore because I'm getting my validation for myself. And I didn't need to go to you. That I just wanted to say I got to that point. And then the guy was talking, there was a guy talking to you. I don't remember how many podcasts, but I think it was Monday. And he was asking you stuff. And so and by the way, I put the, what is it, how I built this for the other lady. I jumped on after she started, so I didn't hear her name, but I put the how I built this because I also listened to it. And that Spanx interview was awesome.
It was awesome. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, it goes to Tony's massive action. Consistent, massive action and proximity. She went to the stores and sold it herself.
Yeah, absolutely. It was amazing. That was such a powerful story. And massive action was something that had influenced me a great deal from Tony Robbins. And it's a part of my Free the Dream online course that I have created. And I went through and did an evaluation and asked myself, if I was to teach the Free the Dream material today, what would I change? And one of the things that I would actually change, I would no longer take massive action. And instead today, I would actually teach the principle of take aligned action. So but I can tell you there's a lot of value, and there's a lot of evidence to support that taking massive action will get some results. And of course, you throw enough things out against the wall, something's going to stick every now and then. But there is something about taking aligned action and getting further faster by understanding our energetic output into the world and what is attracted back to us. That has a lot more to do with things that I've learned related to the universal laws of attraction and other sorts of things. But hey, you brought up an incredibly powerful thing. I can tell that you are working on fully integrating the 4 agreements and not taking anything personally. And what you are referring to is like, oh my gosh, I did this, I did this, I did this. And I want to share that because I know that Cliff and or others will be pleased and stuff like that. And it's like, but there would be no reason to take any of that personally.
Yeah.
And I love that.
It's the more, like, I was in the doctor's to check for some skin stuff that on that same spot was cancer a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And normally it would be worrisome and all that stuff. And now it's like, if you asked, well, what do you feel about that? I'd say, well, I don't have enough information to make a decision to feel about anything yet because we don't have any answers. Yeah. Instead of projecting, all the possible myriad issues. And so, but actually what I wanted to ask you is, and this is, I say this from a selfish point of view, not a get on you, but I remember where I was driving coming. I remember hearing it a lot of times where you were saying I think it was in 2014, that you were, is it 2016, that you were going to exercise and get in shape. Mm-hmm. And you don't look the same as you used to. And I am not trying to, get on you for that or anything. But since I'm now on a quest kind of to do the same thing, mm-hmm. Have you been able to stay consistent with that? And if you've fallen off, what could you say to help me to not fall off?
Well, first of all, why is it so important to not fall off? I would evaluate that question. So that's the not necessarily it's a rhetorical question for you.
I can answer it easily.
Okay, why is that?
Because I've hit that age where I can't count on youth to protect me from the grindings of old age. Everybody says, and I'm not quite there yet, but at 60, everything starts to dramatically downslide. And so I don't take any medications, but I know that if I don't do something, the slightly elevated blood sugar, the slightly elevated blood pressure are going to get me in ways I don't want it to happen. And so you've really helped me get rid of the eating that I've done for nervous reasons. I figured out how to stop eating for cravings.
Yep.
And I want to keep exercising and eating right. And so that's my next.
I will give you what you're looking for.
Thank you.
And if you follow it, it will work. There's no doubt in my mind it will work. It worked for me for, I think it was 5.5, 6 years. I'll tell the story about it in just a moment. But is it mark@weiss-solutions.com? Is that the correct email address for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then let me go into products, purchases. Let me go in here and hit grant offers and grant an offer, free the dream. So I just granted you free access to my Free the Dream online course.
Oh, thank you.
Wait a second. Okay. Yeah, okay, it does say granted. Okay. Let me just go back and make sure that you have it. I can go in here, Mark Weiss. And products. Yeah, Free the Dream online course is now there. So you'll have a link in your email. And if you don't know your username and password, or your password, when you get the email, click on the thing that says you now have link to access to this course. It'll take you to a login screen. Use the email address that I just said and click forgot password. It'll send you a new password reset situation.
Oh.
But you'll now be able to go to my website and log in and access. There are 8 videos in the Free the Dream online course. And I would encourage you to go ahead and watch all 8 videos. And if you watch all 8 videos, you'll have the answer to how I decided to make a decision to work out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. And I did that not only 6 days a week, I ended up working out 7 days a week. I ended up on average somewhere between 1 to 3.5 hours a day working out. And at one point in that journey, I made the decision to give up sugar for the rest of my life. And I went for, I think, about 2 or 3.5 years without actually a single grain of sugar consumed in my body. So I used and succeeded using everything there, what I talk and teach in that course. So and there's specifically a session, how to create change that lasts, and it's a Tony Robbins thing I learned. It's about creating neuro associations, such that you actually create wiring or neuro association in your brain, that every time you think about this thing that you want to do, that you actually feel immediate elation and pleasure, and it just all this amazing, wonderful things. And then every time you think about not doing this thing that you want to do, every time you think about just bowing out, I'm not going to go to the gym today, instantly you feel immediate, unbearable, massive pain, multiple layers and in different ways. And I created those neuro associations in my brain, and I did that. And I was very successful. At the time I started my health and fitness journey in November 2014, I weighed 268 pounds. Or no, 272 pounds is what I weighed. And when I was on Free the Dream conference in 2019, doing the talk that you will see in this course that you're about ready to do, I was 180 pounds. So almost 100 pounds down, but that doesn't account for the fact that I had about 30 pounds of muscle that I'd built. So I was in the best shape of my life as far as I'm concerned. Now, you mentioned the fact that I don't quite look the same as I once did. Well, quite frankly, I used to look a whole lot more healthy by the world standards than I look right now. And when you watch those videos, you'll see me at my prime, if you will, physically fit and all that stuff. And what happened was in 2020, by the way, one of the downsides of what I did is that I actually created and associated my identity equals I'm a gym rat. I go to the gym. I do these things. So much of my identity, my persona, I literally created a psyche that says who I am is this person. And that person had these habits, these actions, and all these other things. And that's great as long as nothing is going to disrupt your ability to do the things that are a part of your psyche. All right, your personality. All right, we talked previously about deconstructing said personalities, right? Well, I actually I constructed a persona of Cliff Ravenscraft, gym rat, goes to the gym every day, 1 to 3.5 hours a day. That was my life. That was who I was as a persona. Every day I'm creating content from the front seat of my car at the gym. Reflections.
I remember that.
Every day. That's who I am. All right. Now we have this thing called the pandemic that comes along, and all of a sudden one day they make this decision: 2 weeks to slow the spread. I don't know if you remember that phrase.
Yeah, it was BS.
We won't go into the politics of any of it, but the reality is that all of the governments decided that they would shut down every place of business, at least the ones that were non-essential. I'd argue that gyms are essential, but they didn't see it that way. And so they shut down the gym that is my home. They literally kicked me out of my house. All right? Because, again, identity. And so what happened was, it's like, okay, well, 2 weeks. Obviously, I can handle 2 weeks. It's not a big deal, and that wouldn't have been too much of a disruption. But for those of us who lived through that season of life, we know that the 2 weeks to slow the spread, it got extended, and we went months and months and months sheltered in place, and not to mention the fact that we were showered. If we choose to jump into the shower of news media coverage that day, we were showered every day with fear, anxiety, worry, and the promise of instant death if you walk out your doors, or something close to it. I mean, it's not too much hyperbole, but what happened was, I was in relationship with a few people who claimed to know things and people ahead of the news media. And so some of those people said, Cliff, this really is as bad as they say. And I've got some people that I know, and one of the things that I know is that if you haven't done so already, you need to stock up for about 3 to 6 months of food. And because some things are going to come out very soon. And when they do, there will be a rush, and the store shelves will be empty. So make sure you stock up for your family. You can't tell anybody that I've told you this, blah, 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 blah. Go store up. And basically all of this presented. Now here I am, a guy who 3 hours a day, really at that point, I was about 3 hours a day devoted to taking in positive information, positive mindset stuff. Anything is possible. And I'm literally at the gym getting all of this, just doing this thing that is a part of who I am. And now 3 hours a day, I'm not allowed to leave the house. I'm not supposed to leave the house. And I'm watching 2 to 3 hours a day of the coronavirus task force, who's actually showing that everybody is dying everywhere, and that you and your family are next. And quite frankly, I got triggered into some old fear-based anxiety patterns of thinking. I wasn't working out. Now, I happen to live in a beautiful home that was our dream home when we built it. We're actually dreaming of a new dream home now. But anyway, we have a dream home. We have lots of square footage, and we have an amazing home workout room. It's got thousands of dollars of equipment in it. But you know what? My identity and the persona, the psyche that I created, that's not my identity. My identity isn't I am a guy who works out from his house. My identity was tied to I go to this place. Now, see, this is where I'm saying there's some issues that can actually occur when we actually build and construct an identity that is so narrowly focused and narrowly minded. Because knowing what I know now, I might have actually said, I'm not a guy who goes to the gym 6 or 7 days a week. I'm a guy who actually gets physical activity in no matter what form that might be, with a preference towards this. See, but that's not how I wired myself. I wired myself, I go to the gym, and here's why. And the reason why I wired myself is because I had so many limiting beliefs about the pain associated to leaving my house and going to the gym. And I definitely wanted to go to the gym because when I first started out, I hired a personal trainer to teach me how to do things that I didn't know how to do myself. So I didn't hurt myself and injure myself when I was doing weightlifting and strength training and all that other stuff. So I had to, I didn't have to, I chose to wire all of those neural associations that Cliff goes to the gym. And now that the gym's not a possibility, Cliff in that current form of psyche was no longer possible. So if there's a vacuum of my persona and my psyche that doesn't get to do this, and now it's being filled up, instead of positive stuff, it's fear-based anxiety, and now I'm worried about my family, and now all of a sudden, gosh, I remember I've got neuroassociations that when I'm feeling panicked and worried and anxious, I know enough to know that I want a state change. But I had not yet unwired. I have anxiety. I don't want to feel anxiety. I want a state change. I was not consciously aware of the fact that I still had some lingering cords and neuroassociations to emotional eating. And I was an incredibly emotional person during this season, and I ate a lot to get the state changes that I wanted. So now I'm sitting there eating, and I eventually got to the place where, man, I'd gained so much weight and all this other stuff. And, I'm not working out. And eventually I started like, oh gosh, I somewhere along the way, I started eating sugar again. Somewhere along the way, I went and did this. And before I know it, and then one day I get COVID, and then I literally almost died. I mean, I did get a very severe case of COVID, ended up in the hospital, and never quite fully physically recovered since then. I've had a number of health issues over the last several years that I've not talked to many people openly, publicly about. Talked to my wife and about all of them. And quite frankly, it's been a little bit of concerning here and there and all this other stuff. But for me, what happened was, oh my gosh, who am I if I'm not this guy? And I had the option. If I wanted to, Mark, I could have went back. I mean, the obviously the gyms eventually opened back up. The world did open back up. And if I wanted to, I could have reestablished a new fit Cliff Ravenscraft persona, psyche, an identity, if you will. But during that season, I was introduced to a book called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And all of a sudden, it caused me to evaluate and deconstruct all sorts of beliefs that I had once held to be undisputable facts. And as a result of that, I'm starting to see that, wait, maybe everything that I believe isn't ultimate truth. What do I believe? And I started deconstructing a lot of my faith, faith-based beliefs. And then I started to witness things politically and news media wise, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm starting to deconstruct my beliefs and my about what the news media said. And boy, if they've lied about some of these things, what else has my history teachers and the history books I've read lied? And it's like I started going down some really intense paths. Now I will say that at one point is like I became like a downright conspiracy theorist, but really for me, I kind of just set all that aside, and a lot of that was so valuable because I needed, once I had deconstructed so much of my faith beliefs, I did need to reconstruct. I need to, what do I believe? And that's where, for me, when it came time for me to reconstruct some sort of identity, I can tell you my priority was not my physical fitness and health. Some of it was just energy. I didn't have the energy at least that was the feeling at the time. It just wasn't a priority. That's what it is. It wasn't a priority as it once was. I had experienced, I wouldn't say an ego death complete, or if I did, it was I might have experienced somewhat of a temporary ego death. And one of the things that I can tell you is, looking back, so much of my drivenness to work out 6 days a week and every single week for the rest of my life, and so much of my let me quit eating sugar and all that stuff, while there were definitely foundational, inspirational catalysts of I'm doing this for my health and my overall well-being, but I can tell you right now, I can clearly look back and tell you that was about 20 to 30% of the decision. Actually, initially, to initiate the desire to change, it was about 80%, 85%. But almost instantly, 95% of all of the drivenness that caused me to do all of those things was ego driven. Look how I can use this to impress others. Look, I'm going to look better. People are going to notice. They're going to ask me questions, and I'm going to be able to have answers, and people are going to like me more. They're going to respect me more. They're going to see me as more credible. And boy, I did not even know, I wasn't even aware of it until after I had this, what I call a spiritual awakening in 2020, 2021. And so when 2022 came around, my question is it important for me to get back to working out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life? Is it important for me to eliminate sugar for the rest of my life? Is it important for me to get back down under 200 pounds or get back, to this and that or whatever? And I got to tell you, it was a struggle to discern whether or not I wanted to do that. It's like, there's a part of me that really wants to, but that part I recognized after reading the 4 agreements and some other things. It's like, wait a second. A part of that is because I have so much self-hatred for my body right now. And so if anything, I was actually so if my persona that I was constructing was, the priority wasn't to build a healthy, fit lifestyle identity again. What was important to me was my spiritual journey. And this is where this is what's getting my attention. And for me, actually allowing myself to be back at like 250, 255 pounds, feeling fat, looking in the mirror, and overcoming the fear of going back out to a live event where previously, before the pandemic, those people saw me at 180 pounds and respected me because of that journey. And now being afraid that all of those people would judge me as a failure because of what I had allowed to happen since. And to learn that, wow, I'm not afraid of their judgment. The reality is I literally don't like myself. I don't like my body. I'm judging my body. This isn't about my health. This isn't about my overall well-being. This is about the fact that I hate that I've lost credibility in the eyes of others and how that makes me perceived by others. And this is an ego-driven thing. And for me, I consider that to be a gift of this journey, to actually be confronted with that and to overcome all of that. And while today I'm probably right around 250, 255, I eat sugar. And I'm working out. My wife and I go for a walk every day, 1 to 3 miles, Monday through Friday. That's the consistency of our workouts these days. Quite frankly, they're not amazing workouts. They're nowhere near what I would desire and call a workout, but I have my reasons for choosing that instead of going to the gym today. It's not important that I make any excuses or even talk about it, because today, none of this for me has anything to do with impressing anyone else or managing how other people perceive me. I literally don't care. And while I do care about my physical health and my overall well-being, I don't feel like what I look like in this physical body is I don't buy into all of the narratives and stories of all those other things. And the thing is gosh, I you know, I've learned enough and witnessed enough to say that I can actually see through the illusion that, boy, if I weigh 180 pounds, I'm so much more in control of what may or may not happen to me in my health and physical fitness. And I'm at the place where now, Mark, I don't. I'm absolutely fully aware that I might not make it alive to the end of your and I's conversation. And I don't say that to be morbid. It's just that I don't fear death. I don't fear illness. I don't fear sickness. And so for me to be able to use the same techniques and strategies that are in the Free the Dream course, which I just gave you access to, they will work if you use them. The thing is I see it through a lot of my own baloney today. I mean, I could force myself to believe some more lies, and that's what I would see them as lies today, these lies that I'm going to tell myself. And so for me to actually make a desire to change and to get back to working out consistently and to doing it and to quit eating sugar again, I'd have to actually find some convincing belief system that causes me to associate pain and unbearable pain to those things. And it's like, I'm just not interested in that right now. So it's a lot more than what you asked. I'm eager to hear what comes up for you as you hear that.
Yeah, for me, it's not the looks. I mean, I've been with the same woman since 87 and she's fine with me. What she doesn't like is if I say I'm going to stop eating sugar and I don't. That's what makes me unattractive to her, not the looks. It's for her. It was always personality. It was always, what kind of person are you, not what do you look like? Because I was 143 when we met. So, and I was 280 when we married.
Yeah.
So, but what I want is I want to be able to turn my jet ski without getting thrown off because I can't hold on with this weight. I want to be able to use my windsurfer again.
Yeah.
So it's all biomechanical for me. It's not looks.
Yeah, go and if you want the tools that I use that allowed me to go, I don't know how many. Well, let's do it here. So we're talking November 2014. So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That's 5.5 years. What you will hear in the Free the Dream online course that I gave you allowed me to consistently, without fail, I mean, I'll give you a caveat to that, without fail for 5.5 years, working out a minimum of 6 days a week with the full intent and expectation that that was going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life. And I'm convinced that if COVID wouldn't have happened, I would have not broken that streak. It's only in hindsight that I could see the shortcoming of tying my identity to going to a place. It's just an excuse, but it's a part of my story. Now, with that being said, I would encourage you. Oh, the caveat. When I say I did it without fail for 5.5 years, there was one time I got bronchitis and I went to the doctor and he says, Cliff, dude, take 2 or 3 days off, let this medication, and then after 3 days, hit the gym again. And there might have been 3 different times during that 5.5 years where I traveled for 18 hours and I chose not to work out those days. So with very few exceptions and very rare, truly authentic, it's like, as far as I'm concerned, without fail, I worked out 6 days a week, minimum, every week for 5.5 years. And I did it using the techniques and strategies that you'll discover in the Free the Dream course that I just gave you.
Yeah, I will, as I did with the 4 agreements, I will access it and take advantage of it. And by the way, if you are ever in Southern California and you want to take a jet ski ride out in the ocean,
yeah, that would be awesome.
Just you have my email address, and I think I've emailed you, and it's got the phone number. So if you ever go,
I wish I would have known this before.
I'll take you guys out.
I wish I would have known this before because, gosh, I've been to San Diego, California, for social media marketing world. I don't know, 10 years, something like that. But now they're going to Anaheim. So
That's closer to me.
oh, is it?
That's way close. Yeah, that's way closer to me.
All right. Well, I'm going to
Yeah.
I will likely be in Anaheim next year. So for the social media marketing
Okay.
world conference.
Yeah. Yeah. To give you an idea, to go to Disneyland, I can see the fireworks every night when I walk.
Nice.
And to go from backing out of my driveway to being at the gate at Disneyland is a half hour, including parking and the tram and everything.
Yeah.
I don't want to say exactly where I am, but so yeah, Anaheim is
It's
pretty
close.
darn close to where I am. Yeah.
Well, let's make this happen. If I do attend Social Media Marketing World 2026, I definitely, whether we do jet skiing or not, I don't know. But definitely, I would love to make sure that you and I have the opportunity to meet face to face and have a real human to human conversation.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Mark, I appreciate you. I didn't know what would come out of the update here, but boy, I think I'm going to put this out as an episode of the Clifford Ravenscraft Show and share that for anybody who asks me, hey, what happened to you, Cliff? It looks like you've put on some weight.
It's like I say, I'm not up on you. It's what pitfalls, and you basically told me, which is you did the right thing, but you tied it to the wrong identity.
Yeah, and the thing is, and where I'm at today is I'm at a place today where I don't want to be tied or attached to any particular identity. That's me personally. I like the idea that I can construct and deconstruct as I go. And I'm more at a place today where in my journey where I kind of like to just go with a little bit of a flow of life, and I like waking up in the morning and ask myself the question, who do I want to be today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least what my thing is who do I not have? It's not even who do I not want to be? Who do I not have to be today?
Yeah. Well, I was at that place in the journey, and I'm very familiar. I've worked with a number of people who have been introduced to the kind of concepts that you've recently been introduced to, and dude, you're on an incredible. And by the way, I know you and I exchanged email back and forth. There is no rush, my friend. Don't rush it. It's
okay.
There is no rush. There's no perfection. There just is what is. There just is what is.
It's making me a lot more comfortable to just not waste mental energy on, I don't even, like, you want to almost reconstruct reality to be the way you want it to be. And it just, and you know what, for the lady that you talked to before, having listened to you enough, even like Steve Jobs says, all the things he went through actually led him throughout his whole life, whether it was the calligraphy class for the typography on Apple. It's, as you say, life is being done for you, not to you.
Yeah.
And just learn.
Yeah. I love that, Mark. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming up again today. And I have no doubt again that you and I will be chatting again soon.
Yeah, I hope you got some people from the posting I did, and that helped. I don't know if you did.
We'll find out at some point. Somebody will say, I'll ask somebody, hey, how did you first discover me? I checked into, what was it, nextdoor.com or neighborhood.com or something like that?
Yeah, just nextdoor.com. And I'm going to put one more out for tomorrow and the next day. So,
sweet.
All right.
I appreciate you, Mark.
Thanks. You. See you later.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. So let's see here. If anybody wants to join me, you know what? It's 2:58. I have a coaching call at 3:30, and I'm going to wrap up here by 3:10 is what I was going to do. But I will do a last call, just a last call. cliffravenscraft.com/join. If you want to join me right now, last call, we have a 15-minute conversation, and that's absolutely a possibility. Otherwise, I will be back again. Let's see here. If you go to cliffravenscraft.com/join, you'll see the schedule of when I will be here. And I'm going to look that up right now. cliffravenscraft.com/join. Join. Okay, tomorrow is Thursday, the 24th. Oh boy. I'm going to try 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. And so we'll see if that works out. And the reason I say that is because it didn't work out so amazing on Monday. Nobody showed up at my 10 a.m. By the way, John Slater, I see that you've just joined. If you want to join me here as a last call, just turn on your video on Zoom and give me a thumbs up, just like in the camera, and I'll bring you up here. So give me a thumbs. Yep, he wants up. So by the way, the schedule for tomorrow and Friday is at cliffravenscraft.com/join. So let's get squeezed. Let's see here. We got John here. Hold on one second, John. I'm going to fix this. We'll do. All right. John, how can I be of service to you today?
Hey, good to meet you, Cliff. Hey, I know you got a coaching call coming up. Hey, let's talk masterminds for just a few minutes.
Awesome. I just shut all my masterminds down.
I know. I just heard that the other day. So I'm a business coach for one of the big coaching programs, but I also want to launch some mastermind groups on my own.
Okay.
So I would love to hear a little bit about your experience, the one you're in personally, just as a member, and even what you learned as you hosted them, what would be important as I think about launching a few mastermind groups myself.
All right. Do you have a pen and a piece of paper or a document that you can type into?
I have my Microsoft Word notes ready to type like a madman.
Type this in: upgradeyourpeergroup.com.
Okay.
Upgradeyourpeergroup.com. There are 7 podcast episodes that share practically everything that I would ever want to share in a book on podcasts, on mastermind groups.
Okay.
But I didn't want to write a book, so I just spoke it all into a microphone. And those
Nice.
7 episodes are there. Now, with that being said, I'm more than delighted to give you some highlights in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So let me ask you, what would you first want to hear about?
So, you know what I'm interested is I've listened to a few of those, not all of those. So I have listened to a few of those episodes from there. I would be interested, what's been the difference for the one that you're a member of, if you're still a member. I guess I don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And to the ones that you ended up launching and leading as the kind of the facilitator leader.
Okay, so the one that I'm a member of, and I am still currently a member of it, it is the Green Room Mastermind with Pat Flynn, Michael Stelzner from Social Media Examiner, Ray Edwards, Leslie Samuel, and Mark Mason. So these 5 guys and myself have been meeting since 2012. Pat and I started the group in October 2010. We've met every week since October 2010, with the exception of Thanksgiving week and Christmas week. So very, very consistent. We meet together 1 hour every week. This group is not necessarily anyone's particular, like, it's not my group that I am the owner of the group or whatever. If anything,
Sure.
Pat and I are co-founders of the Green Room Mastermind. With that being said, from the very first meeting all the way up until today, I have taken the role of facilitator and the leader of the agenda of the call. So I'm the person who keeps track of the hot seat schedule. I'm the person who sends out the reminder every week. I'm the person who hosts the Zoom call that we are currently using. I'm the person who communicates the reminder before the meeting. I'm that guy. I'm the person when we get into the call, I'm like, okay, let's start with wins of the week, and I choose who goes next and say, okay, it's time for your hot seat, and here's the announcement. I do all of that, but
keep the flow.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've learned, every mastermind group needs one person who fits that role. All right. So one of the things that I've seen and heard of a lot of mastermind groups that have failed, and one of the top reasons why they fail is because nobody seemed to be the leader of the group. And so I'm again leader of I'm trying to not overstate the importance of what I do with a label, if you will, in the green room, because quite frankly, we are all peers. There's not one person in this group sees themselves as any more important than anyone else in the group. But I
Right.
do play the role of leadership of the meeting itself. And that somebody has to do that. And
Right.
ideally,
You'd have
it
to have
would,
structure for it.
and ideally that would be one person. Ideally.
Sure.
Okay. So now in the Green Room Mastermind, which I've been talking about, I am a member of that group equally with everyone else in that group. In November 2017, actually in November 2010, and for 2 years, I facilitated 5 paid mastermind groups with 10 members in each of those 5 groups on a paid basis. And the one thing that was different there, and also I shut it down after 2 years, and I could go into details why. Actually, that's probably in one of the 7 episodes, the full story of that, why I shut that down. Anyway, in November 2017, I started what was called the Next Level Mastermind, and I started an AM group for people who are already full-time self-employed, and the PM group for people who were kind of side gig kind of people but wanted to become full-time self-employed.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, that was 2 90 minutes a week, and from November 2017 to the end of June 2025, so just a couple of weeks ago, I shut it down. I've generated $1.5 million in revenue hosting 2 90-minute sessions a week. So it's incredibly profitable, which is nice. And the one thing that's uniquely different about those, one is paid, one is not paid. So the Green Room, nobody's ever paid a penny for the Green Room Mastermind. My groups that I facilitated have all been paid mastermind groups. Now, this isn't something that I recommend. This isn't like prescriptive, but it's more descriptive of my own experience, is that I've never taken a hot seat per se on a regular, ongoing, frequent basis in any of the facilitated groups of my paid mastermind groups. As far as I'm concerned, I'm here to create and facilitate and make this environment available to the members who are paying. And I just make sure that they get the same kind of experience that I've benefited from for all these years in the Green Room. So I play the role of facilitator. I'm not actually a member. Now, with that being said, over the years, I've occasionally stepped in and took a hot seat. Somebody who was supposed to be in the hot seat last minute couldn't make it. And there's a number of different format options that I can choose for somebody who's missing in their hot seat. And very rarely, but sometimes I'll jump into the hot seat and take one. But one of the key differences is that in a paid mastermind group, I've pretty much not done that. Most of the people who are attracted to the mastermind group already have a level of knowledge and trust of who I am. They know what value I bring to the table. Now, the thing is I am there facilitating every meeting. And while everyone's into the hot seat, I speak into those people in their hot seats as much as I would in any of the meetings in the Green Room mastermind. So while I may not take a hot seat, I am still investing.
All right, you're still part of the mastermind effect.
I am in every meeting. Every meeting. Very rarely did I ever miss. Occasionally, I was like, I'm going to be on an airplane with no internet access. Will somebody facilitate this in my absence? It was maybe 3 meetings in all of those years, 7.5 years. So anyway, there's that. One of the other things is it's very important for me personally that this was not a group coaching program, my paid mastermind groups, that it not become a paid coaching program. But at the same time, what's different is the members of the group aren't my peers. So in my paid mastermind group, there are very few there might be 2 people out of, let's just say 80 or some odd people who are a part of these 2 groups over the years. there might have been 2 or 3 people who had as much business experience as I had, or who had earned as much doing the kinds of things that we typically talk about in hot seats. But that's very rare. Most people would not be they wouldn't consider themselves my peers. Meaning that we're so in a way, I'm more of a mentor to the group than a peer. And one of the things that was important for me in these paid mastermind groups is that this is not a group coaching program. So I didn't want a group of people who come in and they get in their hot seat and I'm answering all of their questions. I'm providing all the feedback. It was important for me to choose everybody who had a lot of similar things in common, but where each person had some unique things that they have experience in, their education. Everybody had value to bring to the table. And the last thing that I wanted to do was be the person who is the first to answer a question that comes in a hot seat from a hot seat. I let everyone else. And so usually somebody will monologue for about 5 or 10 or sometimes 15 minutes about what they're facing, what they're dealing with, what they're seeking advice on. And as they're talking, I'm writing down all of these things that they're saying and questions I want to ask, feedback I want to give. I literally have like 3 pages of notes that I could speak to them during this hot seat. And I bite my tongue. I say, who wants to go first? Who has a clarifying question or feedback for so-and-so? And I let them go. And as they go, I just start crossing out all of the things other people brought up that have already been addressed. And then when there's, let's just say, 7 to 10 minutes left and everybody else has kind of been exhausted of what they've got to share, I'm like, hey, if you're ready, I've got some ideas here. Let me just hit my little snooze button that tells me I can go for 10 more minutes.
Kick me off whenever. I know the mental switch to call can be.
There's no mental switch. It's totally like my client that I'm working with at 3:30 is one of, actually, hands down currently, and I think is probably my favorite client on the face of this planet. And
that's the best.
I could stop this live stream at 3:29 and start that Zoom call at 3:30.
Look, the new one.
And I'm like, dude, hey, how's it going?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, she's amazing. By the way, her name is Megan Porta. Eatblogtalk.com. Megan Porta. Today's her birthday. Happy birthday, Megan. I don't think she's watching right now, but
happy birthday, Megan.
Anyway, so yeah, what did I finish that point that I was just making?
That's good. So
yeah, go ahead.
What's interesting to me, and I wonder, I see like my value is I have experiences. I've been a coach for 5 years. And I hosted mastermind groups before. I host masterminds. They're more like one-off masterminds once a month for our community, for the coaching business that I work for.
Okay.
But the value I see that I bring is that facilitation. Like I'm almost the Rich Litvin. I want a room full of people that aren't maybe are my peers or beyond, because what I bring is I know how to coach and listen and draw back the conversation and extract the value from everybody else's experience, because that's the power of the mastermind as I see it and as I've experienced it. I'm wondering what your feedback is to that. If they are my peer or above, how that would work in your mind.
Well, it certainly doesn't matter if they're your peer or above. That's not necessarily a factor. When I hear Rich Litvin, and I'm very familiar with Rich, and I've been in so many of his settings where how he facilitates, he's definitely a coach. And as far as I know, I haven't ever seen him lead and facilitate a mastermind. He's
a real master, sure. I get sorry when I said that, I didn't mean how he facilitates. I meant that idea of what's the opening line to his podcast? People that are wealthier than you and more experienced than you need you more than you could under.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's the thing. The important thing is you and I, as coaches, have the ability to uncover and pull out things that might not be there. The one thing that I attempt to do is to not overuse my superpower, but try to see if I can't teach that superpower to the other people in the group. So that I can, my goal is to do less and less and less within the actual context of the environment, because you and I know this as a coach, there's not a single person on this call who isn't equally as valuable to everyone else on this call than I am.
Right. Amen.
The only thing that would cause them to experience in their mind that they have less to offer or whatever, it's all in their mind. And so if anything, what I love to do is I love to make sure that people that I don't do for someone what they could or maybe even should do for themselves. Now, I will step in. I'll do, but I will allow what some people would call awkward pauses. And I'll go for 45 seconds,
Sure.
60 seconds, 90 seconds and not say a
Beauty
word.
of silence.
And everybody's like, Cliff, is your thing? Oh yeah, I'm here. I've been unmuted the whole time. I'm just waiting for somebody to step up and be bold enough to share what they're thinking. Who is it going to be?
Yeah.
You know that, and just there's a and when they recognize I'm serious, I'm not actually going to say anything. Then somebody else ultimately feels the pressure of saying something, and usually there's such gold with what they had to share that it's like, yeah, I had something. I could have said something, but man, I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah. That's solid. I love it. One other question, and kick me off if you need to. I know I'm looking at the clock.
We got 6 minutes. We're good.
One of the things I want to build into this is the idea of kind of extreme vulnerability and accountability where people share what their goals are and we're able to pick one thing they're working on that quarter and we're all going to ask them about. Maybe have what I would call kind of a one-page report. Hey guys, here's my net worth, here's my income, here's my marriage, how I'm rating my marriage, here's my fathering, here's my fitness, and here's the thing I'm focusing on, and just here I am. Push me, support me, help me, and everybody cycle through that as they have their hot seats. Have you done anything like that? Have you built some sort of tracking system where everybody in the group can see progress on certain goals?
So
what comes to mind for you on that?
So my experience in the green room is that neither of those have ever been a factor in our meetings in all the time we've done anything. And neither of those have been a factor in my own facilitation of my paid mastermind groups that I facilitate. I am very much aware of extreme vulnerability and its value, as well as holding, functions of accountability in whatever form it looks like. They've not necessarily just been my own cup of tea. Quite frankly, I'll go to an event and they'll have breakout sessions and people will do extreme vulnerability things. And sometimes I feel like I have to, because I'm at a place where I don't really struggle with a lot. These days, I have very little concern about how I'm perceived by others and all this other stuff. And everybody's sharing an incredible struggle and all this other stuff. And sometimes I have like, okay, what do I do? Do I manufacture something here so that I'm not actually, I don't want to sit there and say something because that I'm afraid to say something, because I'm not afraid to say anything. And at the same time, I don't want to make something up. It's like, and then people think, well, he's just holier than thou.
Right.
Some of these things, they just don't resonate with me, and that's fine. The other thing is my own personal thing is I choose to intentionally not work with clients who are not absolute self-starters and self-motivated individuals. And I filter out anyone who needs accountability. So I filter out for that factor. Now, again, that doesn't mean that I'm doing something right. It's my own preference. I prefer to not hold people accountable. As far as I'm concerned, if you come to the hot seat and you have this great, incredible idea and it's your fancy of the month and whatever, and you come 3 weeks or 7 weeks later and you're back in the hot seat again and you're on a completely different thing, hey, it's your life, it's your journey. And, as far as I'm concerned, life is an ultimate choose your own adventure game. And until you come to a hot seat and say, okay, guys, I'm really struggling financially because it seems like for the last 6 months, I've tried this, and I keep going and I bounce and blah, blah, blah. Now we've got something to talk about. And the worst thing that I would want to do is to have, for me personally, is to have somebody choose something that I took this course and they told me that if I had this, that I could get this and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? Now I'm studying and I'm reading these books and I'm committed to this and I'm going to do this and I'm taking these actions and blah, 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 blah. And what I've seen for me for far too long is the number of people who begin a commitment to something, and over time, it's not aligned with what they truly want. It's not a part of their picture.
Alignment.
And out of alignment, I've seen far too many people who become over obligated and under committed, and I don't want to hold somebody accountable to something that's out of alignment. And I'm not suggesting that's what you're doing. You would actually take that nuance into account. But for me, I'm filtering for people who have lots of clarity about what their aligned things are. And if anything, I actually find myself more engaged with people on how do I actually stop doing as much as I'm doing? How do I focus on doing less? How do I slow down? How do I stop waking up at 3:30 in the morning and instantly going into take action mode on this thing that I'm so excited about that it's consuming my life? Those are the people that I'm actually working with. And they will tell you right now, it's like, I don't need to be accountable. I just need somebody that can bounce ideas off of. I need somebody who can challenge the way that I think. And that's what I'm filtering for in my own experience. So it's not better than what you're talking about, but those groups, and let me tell you, there are some people who are in absolute desperate need of a place where they can be authentic and vulnerable in a group where it's safe to do that. Also, there are people out there who, quite frankly, need somebody to hold them accountable, and to seek some help beyond that accountability if it continues to be an issue.
So that's really helpful, and I might even reframe or perhaps offer just having a hot seat every 7 weeks is a measure of accountability. You're making yourself accountable, and you might offer. You're not going to be like, "Hey, you said you would do this, and you have to do it for 6 months." Get on it, man. But you simply notice, hey, every 7 weeks for the last 3 times you've pivoted every time. How are you doing? Are you in alignment, or are you just what's going on, man? And I don't know, no judgment, but you offer that question, and now they have to wrestle with it.
So I just finished facilitating a meeting, and somebody in the meeting says, I want to become the number one authority in video production on all things AI related. And this is what my objective is. This is my desired outcome. This is blah, blah, blah. And here's where I'm coming, and I'm seeking advice on this and this and blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey, do you mind if I ask you a question? About 1.5 years ago, you said that your number one objective was to become the number one person in said field. And you have this brand and you have this. And then when we met a couple months back in person, you were really excited about this thing that you had just did, and you wondered if this is what you shouldn't do, and you got really excited, and you said you're doing all these things, and now you want this. And I'm like, I'm more than just happy to entertain whatever we got going here, but I'd like to ask you, where do you stand on this thing, and where do you stand on this thing these two things that you've previously said that you're going all in on? Not to hold him accountable, but just to ask him, what's going on? Let us know. Why this?
Right.
And blah, blah. And again, big boy pants, man. You just what do you want to do? We're here to support you.
Right. He's not in isolation. He has somebody giving him feedback. He's not holding his feet to the fire, but you are making him consider so he can reflect.
One of my favorite scriptures that speaks to the value of a mastermind group, it's in Proverbs, I believe, and it said something like this: plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Plans lack because of the lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Do you want to know what that scripture does not say? It does not say that you are more likely to succeed if you follow the advice that is given to you by all of your advisors. Because I can tell you right now, the number of times when I had plans about what I wanted to do, And I went in and I was hoping that I would get encouragement and everybody would agree. And they all challenged me. And there's this one day where one person was missing. Everyone thought that my plan was a disastrous, a reckless decision and all this other stuff. And they gave all of their advice. I shared my plans and I got the counsel of many advisors. And afterwards, I was even more convinced that what I had chosen, in spite of all of their warnings, was in fact the right decision for me. And
Nice.
so what they did is they brought out all sorts of things that I had not thought about, but I was able to mitigate some of those concerns because they brought them to my attention.
All right. So you didn't change course, but you sharpened your own idea.
Yeah.
I love it. Man.
John, it is such a
Good.
pleasure to have you here. Thank you for
Yeah.
joining me on the live stream. Feel free to join me in any of these future sessions. I really appreciate the question, the dialogue. And real quickly, if you want to give a promotion to yourself and where people can find you and what you're doing in the world.
Sure. I'm John Slater, business and leadership coach. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook.
And it's Jon.
Slater.
Jon.
Yep. Jon. Yep. SlaterCoaching.com. All right. Hey, thank you so much, Cliff. Have a great call. Okay.
Thank you. Many blessings, and we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, thank you so much for another session today. Again, cliffravenscraft.com/join. You can see when you can pick up here tomorrow and Friday, especially if any of you want to join me at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So I may have to reconsider 10 a.m. slots, unless I can get some people to join me at 10 a.m. Many blessings to you all. I'm going to go wish my client, Megan Porta, a happy birthday on our session. And until next time, I hope you find all of the peace, love, joy, and fulfillment you've been searching for your entire life within you.